Hello and welcome to this Superliminal Films, Superliminal Games YouTube video. What do we have on tap this week? What do we have here staring us in the face? Why, this is an old school 7-point Singleton deck list that I played in the month of January in the Philadelphia Old School bracket event. I won't tell you my record yet, but it will go on for a little bit about the event. It was a 5-round best of one with a finals that ended up being best of three from the two players with the best records. So there were two different groups, and you played within your group, and then two people who weren't in your group, and the two players with the best records won their groups, and then went on to the best of three finals. So this is what I built, and I will be 100% honest, the entire reason that I built the deck was because of the plateau that you can see there with all the weird writing on it and everything else. Had that, have one, knew that I wanted to build something to go 7-point Singleton with my white-red. I'll link the points list down below here that we used. Of note, if you're interested in playing 7-point Singleton now, the points list has updated, and one of the cards that I have in my deck has gone up a point. So this list currently is 8 points, but I think it'd be pretty easy to manipulate it back down to 7 points. Disintegrate is the card that got pointed, but was not pointed when we were playing this. So I'll start with my pointed cards. Mox Ruby, pretty easy. We want mana acceleration, and I don't own a Mox Pearl, so went with the red Mox. Mazavith is just, I think, an absolute must-have in this format. There are so many creatures that are so hard to answer, and even though I have a lot of artifact removal and a little bit of creature removal, it's still just it's sort of unconditional, and you'll see throughout the games that there are quite a few times that Mazavith hits the battlefield, and not a lot of times that it actually sticks around. Below that, we have Wheel of Fortune. It's the only way I can draw cards, really. I've seen some lists that have Icy Manipulator, not Icy Manipulator, JM Day Tome, the other 4-drop, JM Day Tome in them for drawing cards. I like the burst card drawing potential, especially because my curve is so low, and I can dump my hand a lot faster than other decks can. Casting that makes it pretty easy. Fireball, it's obvious you're playing red, you're going to play Fireball. And balance, again, like I said, it's easy for me to dump my hand, so if I can dump my hand pretty quickly and then balance away, usually I probably have more creatures, so maybe I'm losing creatures, but they're losing cards out of their hand, and that is valuable to me. So we'll go up to the lands. I've got the Plateau, as I said, City of Brass, then Hammerheim. It's a red land, but like the other ability did not come into play at any point during my games, but it's there as a mountain with upside, basically. Strip Mine, ubiquitous in the format, absolutely necessary. Got to take out things like Mazavith or any troubling land that comes up, or if your opponent is playing multiple colors, it's an easy way to strip off their colors, or you can kill the next card up, Mishra's Factory. It's a creature, it's a land. It's just as important in Singleton as it is when you can play 4 of them in regular old school. Then I had 4 mountains and 14 plains. As you can see, also very heavy on the white in this deck, so not a lot of need for red sources. Then we have Swords to Plowshares, Disenchant, Divine Offering, and Dust to Dust. Artifact removal that doubles as creature removal in the Divine Offering and the Dust to Dust, because just about every deck is playing some combination of Triskelion, Juggernaut, Dancing Scimitar, Dragon Engine is very common. Basically, the 3-drop and up artifact creatures are very common in this format because they're colorless. Any deck can play them. And so having the ability to remove them easily was what I was going for. Enchantments are also can be very powerful in this format, so that's why I went with the Disenchant as well. Then we have Crusade, which I have done a comic book alter to because Philadelphia, we do not like to play with the stuff that Wizards banned last year if we can help it. So I wanted to obfuscate the art and everything with a little bit of X-Men comic. Behind that, we have Angelic Voices, which was, to my money, one of the all-stars, standout all-stars of the deck. If you're not familiar, it says if you control creatures that are only white or colorless, all of your creatures get +1/+1, and things like a 2/4 Dragon Engine or a 2/6 Dancing Scimitar or a 6/4 Juggernaut are absolutely great, and that's why you won't see any red creatures in this deck. No, Shivan Dragon is one that I think a lot of people play that I had considered putting in the deck, but the Pump from Angelic Voices I think just has a higher upside because it affects every other creature in the deck. And then behind that, Spirit Link, pretty common if you're playing white in this format, just shuts down an opposing creature pretty effectively. Then the only artifacts that aren't creatures that I'm playing are Chaos Confetti, which is Chaos Orb, I swear, and Aeolipile, just as an additional way to either close out a game or as pesky creature removal or something like that. Moving on down to the creatures, pardon me, we have Acacian Infantry, Acacian Priest. There's too many Acacians. Acacian Priest, which is great because it can pump stuff. Benelish Hero, Acacian Infantry, there it is. Tundra Wolves, Savannah Lions, and Acacian Javelineers. Really just effective 1-drops. When you're playing Singleton and you're trying to play like a white weenie type strategy, your options are not exactly all that healthy and thick. So sometimes you have to go with things like Acacian Infantry, but hey, it can band. Then we have White Knight, Order of Lightbearer, Mesa Pegasus, and Pikeman. Again, we've got some banding. We've got just the traditional White Knight, Order of Lightbearer going on there. Just very powerful 2-drops. Then in the threes, we have what is rapidly becoming my favorite card in white in this format, Pharrell's Zealot. I had never seen this card before I started brewing this deck, and when I was looking for another 3-drop to complement the other 2 3-drops I had, I was just like, wow, all right, so it's a 2/2 for 3, that's cool, and the ability to deal damage to a creature instead of a player if it attacks unblocked is pretty great. It's the kind of thing that you can attack in, and they're probably going to block with it because they don't want to lose their creature anyway. Maybe they'll make a trade. Thunder Spirit is Thunder Spirit, right? It's a 2/2 flying. It's going to get over. It's going to deal a lot of points of damage. Dragon Engine is a late game play more than it looks. It's pretty anemic as a 1/3 for 3, but the ability to have that colorless fire breathing for 2 mana is actually pretty powerful, and I've definitely dealt a fair piece of damage with that card over the course of my time playing with it. Onto the 4-drops, we have Moorish Cavalry, 3/3 trample for 4. That card is absolutely great. It's a solid house. Northern Paladin, 3/3 for 4. The ability to destroy black permanents, also great. Spoilers, didn't actually get to use that ability at any point during the event, but I'm sure it would have come in handy had I come up against more black cards. Dancing Scimitar is an absolutely stellar blocker. It blocks Sarah Angel. It blocks Thunder Spirit. It blocks so many things that fly. I really, really, really like Dancing Scimitar. Plus, it attacks for 1. And Juggernaut, like I said, a lot of people play the big artifact fatties because it's Singleton, so you don't have a lot of depth in especially the creatures that can hit. And yeah, it dies to Lightning Bolt. Yeah, it dies to so many other things. But hey, it's also a Juggernaut. It's iconic and it's good. Then we have Sarah Angel, is again iconic and good. And boy, oh boy, does this card just become an absolute house when you have either of the 2 enchantments out to pump it. 4/4 or 5/5 or 6/6. Sarah Angel are absolutely just banger attacking. And then Triskelion, it's Triskelion. It's a 4/4 for 6. It can deal direct damage the turn you cast it. There's not a whole lot I don't like about Trike. And rounding us off with the red spells, Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Pyrotechnics, and Disintegrate. They all deal damage, and they are all capable of being creature removal or multiple creature removal in the case of Pyrotechnics, and they can also just be player removal. So nothing in here that targets creatures only. Didn't want to go down that road. Wanted to be able to just end the game if I needed to end the game, and so we have everything kind of doing double duty. So that's the deck, and I really dug it. If I were going to make changes, I'm not 100% sure that many 1-drops is necessary. I might consider dropping the Acacian Infantry for a Preacher, and then there's a couple other 1s and 2s that could maybe be swapped out. Going forward, if I play this deck again, which I do intend to do, I am going to be dropping the Mox and upping the land count by 1 and changing around exactly where the points are so that I can take advantage of leaving Disintegrate in the deck. And I'm probably going to replace the other 2 points that I'd have available at that point with Armageddon, because this deck works pretty well on low mana. and a lot of other decks that I faced in the format don't necessarily do that. So probably going to be dropping the Mox, adding a land, dropping something else, adding in Armageddon, and keeping the Disintegrate. That's the deck. Let's get into the games. All right. Game 1 incoming. Both of us had taken the free mulligan that we allowed for this format, and my opponent leads on Swamp. I lead on Hammerheim. Not a land I'm really wanting to see here because I'm running such a higher number of planes over red sources, but I'll take it. And then immediately opponent goes Swamp, Swamp him to Turok, which is a beating, shall we say? Not exactly the way I want to be starting off my bracket event, but hey, we do what we can. So, going to lay out my full hand of 7 cards, and we're going to roll randomly for it, re-rolling numbers that are higher than 7. So we're going to start by getting a Lightning Bolt, which sucks because I probably should have cast that in the blind, and a Plains, which doesn't hurt too bad. So probably should have just cast the Lightning Bolt, would have dealt 3 damage, would have been something, more than nothing at least. He now knows what I'm playing, or at least he's seen a Hammerheim, a Lightning Bolt, and a Plains, so he can assume at least. I'd imagine that I'm playing red-white, and we play a Plains and pass it back. And he plays a basic forest, which looks really great. Love the black border basics that he's got there. Into a Fellwar Stone, so he now has all but one of the colors of mana, if that is relevant. He can make everything but blue. I'm going to play a Plains and a Thunder Spirit, a card that should not be worth how much it is worth, but it is, and so we have it. For those of you who don't know, it is a 2/2 flying first strike for 3. So he's going to untap, play another forest. So he's at 5 mana to my 3. That's a lot. And I'm going to play a Singer Vampire, which answers a Thunder Spirit very quickly and easily. So, playing another Plains. Clearly, mana not going to be an issue this game, at least not in the early stages. And a Flying Scimitar, which does block at least a Singer Vampire without dying, as it is a 1/5 flying. But it's still not exactly where I want to be. Scimitars, as I said in the deck tech, really kind of only in the deck because I needed another flyer, or wanted another flyer, for exactly situations like this. So I guess it's okay. I just am never really too in love with a 1/5. And yep, it's just flyers all the time over there, which is really, really, really annoying. Especially because he was able to jump out and get 1 mana ahead of me with the Fellwar Stone, the ability to have a Triskelion here, or not Triskelion, the other one. Anyway, the ability to have a flyer, and I just have a flyer and a flyer, but they don't match up well, is really not great. So, play a city, take a damage, and we're going to disintegrate the Singer Vampire, which is, I mean, sure, the things you gotta do, right? Take a damage to keep a 4/4 flyer off the board. We're at a place again where we can block now profitably. Still can't attack with this dang Thunder Spirit, which is really frustrating, but hey, again, we do what we can. And Icy Manipulator is really just going to slow us down a lot. And being that we are the aggressive deck in this, or supposed to be the aggressive deck here, it was really annoying for me to see this. Things that I had to, or couldn't block, or things that I couldn't attack into, and then to have him start hitting with the Icy Manipulator was really frustrating. I will, be honest, I thought I was going to come out of it here when I drew the Maze of Ith, and that seemed to be a real big potential hit there, even going as far as to attack in, now that I have the chance to do it. But as we will see, that doesn't really go all that well for me, so, because there's a swamp, 2 black mana, Sinkhole the Maze of Ith. So now I lose my ability to untap his attackers and keep them out of combat range, which is just, I mean, annoying is a word for it. It's also just, I think, the point at which I kind of knew this game was getting out of my reach, because we have the icy and I'm getting hit for 4 in the air every turn, which is not necessarily something that I can get away from, which is really, really unfortunate. It kind of doesn't matter what he plays at this point, I'm going to be hurting, but then to have Nether Void be the thing that he ends up playing with the Tetris already out is really, really frustrating as well. This was definitely the point at which I was like, oh no, I misbuilt my deck for this event. People are going to be playing these mid-rangey sort of things, and if I can't get out from, or if I can't get in under them, I'm just going to have an absolutely bad time. And especially now, it's obvious I'm borderline flooding out here. I'm the aggro deck, and I have as many lands in the battlefield as the mid-range deck does. Aeolipile is not going to do anything here, because 2 damage is not actually going to matter in the long run. But I don't know that yet, obviously. There's not really much I can do at this point, even with thinking about that, because the Tetravis exists and can just make a bunch of 1/1s instead of being a 4/4. So this is just kind of difficult. Still flooding out here, still have way more land than I want to. 7 land is more than any aggro deck ever wants to see, and I'm not seeing the creatures. At this point, a 1-drop cost me 4, which doesn't help either, and now he's at the point where every other turn he can tap down both of my creatures and just keep getting in and getting in and getting in that 4 damage in the air, which will eventually just kill me. So, not a whole lot of hope here. Need a disenchant and like another disenchant and runner other cards. Dust to Dust would be doable here because it could get rid of the orb and the creature, manipulator and the creature. But obviously we don't have that. We're going to pay 5 mana for a pikeman. It's got banding, I guess. It's something. It's a creature to play. It's on the ground though, so that doesn't really matter again when my opponent's threat is a 4/4 flying. So he doesn't really have to do anything here. I'm at 7, and he can just kill me in 2 turns of tapping down, so 4 turns really, of tapping down my blockers. But it just doesn't, I don't see a way out of it here playing it. I don't see a way out of it here in commentary, knowing the deck list that we just looked at. I don't see a way that this was going to go all that well for me at this point. And again, I'm sitting here thinking at this point, like, oh no, my desire to play my plateau that caused me to build this deck is just going to absolutely wreck my chances in this event. And everybody built these decks that are just going to answer what I'm trying to do. Now, that being said, again, I had a pretty slow start, so I'm not going to bemoan that too much, but I am also at 3 here, and again, a 1-drop cost me 4. So I need a lot more than anything I can pull together, and he's got the Bayou there. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana available to him, and I have 8, and yet the things he's doing are just way more powerful, because now here I've played 4 mana for a Tundra Wolves, which also doesn't have flying, so whatever. And I'm at 3 here, so the 2 turns it's going to take him to tap down my stuff and attack in are all it's really going to take. And it's unfortunate, but now we're tapping 9 mana, so what is it going to be? It's a Trike. I'm at 3, Trike can hit me for 3, so that'll do it. And I have a Trike in my hand and only 8 mana, so I couldn't cast that. Wouldn't have done much anyway, but we'll scoop him up, move on to second game in the event. Game 2 in the event. Definitely smarting still from the loss of the first game. This one took place a couple days later. It was against Farb, the only member of the Philly Old School Club that I faced during the 5 games of the regular rounds. And he leads on Mountain Mana Vault, which is just very powerful and a lot of mana, though I also lead on Plains Mox Ruby, and so that's also a lot of mana, and I get a Mesa Pegasus in there, so we're going to fly over, deal a little bit of damage. Except, wait, no we're not, because his turn 2 play is coming. forget what we talked about here at this point, but his turn 2 play is going to be a Rock of Care Ridges. So my turn 1 play was 2 mana, his turn 2 play was 4 mana. That's not very fair, though it is very old school. So now I've got a flyer that I cannot attack into, but I do have 3 mana, 2 of it white. We're going to go ahead and play a Pharrell's Zealot, which is a 2/2 that has an ability that if it attacks and is not blocked, I can have it deal 3 damage to a creature instead of dealing damage to the player. So that's neat in this case. If he only keeps that one creature, he attacks me, I attack with the Zealot, I can kill the creature, which is all well and good. He's going to take a damage off of his non-untappable mana vault, and I'm going to get going here. Once again, I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball here, or at least a little behind the 8 ball. Not as far behind the 8 ball as I was in the last game, but I definitely feel like I'm behind the 8 ball because my opponent led on a 4 mana play. But he doesn't have anything, and he respects the fact that my Pharrell Zealot could kill his 3/3 flyer pretty quickly, so going to let me go, and I'm going to pay 4 mana for a Juggernaut, which does tangle at least a little bit with the rock, and it is a 5/3. Once again, he cannot untap because, as we can see, he kept a 1-lander. Oh, there's a second land. Still won't be able to untap that mana vault, but at least he has access to 2 mana now. I'm content at this point just sitting back and building up an army on my side because that Juggernaut's attacking next turn, and it has to, and so he's probably going to lose his 3/3 flyer at that point. I've made land drops so far. This is the kind of colors that we want to see, unlike the last game. Get back there, Juggernaut. Going to play a 3 damage Fireball at the rock and just go ahead and attack him in for 8. 8 is, at this point, nearly half of his life total, which is very big. That's kind of exactly what it is. And then he is going to draw his cards, still not be able to untap, take his damage, and he's going to play City in a Bottle, which doesn't actually touch, I think touches 1, maybe 2 cards in the entire deck for me, none of which I have out here. And he's going to scoop them up because I attack for 8, and then I pass the turn, and he takes 1. So that was a quick and deciding one, and maybe one of the reasons why best of 1 might not be the best for Singleton. On to game 3. All right, on to game 3. This is one of the ones I was most looking forward to because my opponent for this round told me, or told all of us in the Discord, that he had built the non-land cards in his deck entirely out of a pile of cards that his father had found. So that's pretty cool. We're going to lead on Planesmox Ruby again, same as the last game. It's a very, very nice mana-efficient opening. No creature here, so that's kind of a bummer for me, but he lays a basic Plains and says go. So we're going to play a Plains, and then everybody's favorite Pharrell Zealot. I'm really growing to love that card, and can't wait to play more Singleton so I can continue to use it. Hopefully I'll actually get to destroy a creature at some point. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But it is pretty neat, and for an old school card, it's really efficient. So I like that as well. 2/2 for 3 is very playable, and the getting to deal 3 damage to a creature is also, in my opinion, very playable. So my opponent plays a basic Forest into a Circle of Protection green. Again, all of the non-land cards in his deck were found in a random shoebox, I believe, and so the fact that there's any cohesion here is really impressive. So I'm going to attack, deal 2, and we're going to Chain Lightning as well. I don't know if he's got red cards in his deck at this point, so I want to make sure I can Chain Lightning him before he can send it back at me, and I'm probably not killing a creature with it anyway, so... Alright, we've got another Plains out of our opponent into a Pearled Unicorn. So that's a 2/2, and here is where I make a calculated bonehead play, in that it was not calculated and I am a bonehead, and I go ahead and just play the 4th land, or play the 4th mana source, or did that last turn, sorry, play the Maze of Ith, play a 1/1, and then attack the Pharrell Zealot, which is a 2/2, into a 2/2, and just bonehead, first off bonehead move attacking, second off bonehead move not using the Maze of Ith there. Really not my best play. Especially because then he plays a Mishra's Factory into a Cavalry, but then Moorish Cavalry gets taken out by the Swords to Plowshares, so it's kind of fine anyway. So back to me. Going to disenchant the cop green, which at this point I'm sure confused him. I'm going to attack him for 1, which does make sense. And then the last card on my hand is balance, which explains the disenchant, so that got me to empty hand, which means that he now has to discard his entire hand, and we're both playing off the top. Granted, he has a land that can become a creature, but I also have a Mazavith. So at this point, my thinking is that the top of my deck is probably better than the top of his deck, and making him discard 4 cards is pretty solid. So he draws, plays nothing, activates, and attacks me, and I, like a dumb, take 2 instead of mazing it. And I draw my card, which is a Hammerheim, and it is at this point that I realize that the Mazavith I should have used last turn, after he's drawn his card for this turn, and he explains that he's not going to test me again, though he did test me once and pass. So, going to draw off the top here, and going to draw everybody's favorite Scimitar. I actually like it a lot better here in that it is, again, a flyer, so I can just keep poking in for 1. Especially now that I have the Mazavith, and I've already made that mistake once, so I'm not going to let him, if he wants to get shifty with the factory, I'm not going to let him attack through the Mazavith. So, going to go ahead and start pinging in for 1. And wheel here. Wheel, again, calculated, but I'm making him discard 2 cards, and I have no cards. So, yes, we're both drawing up to 7, and this could be really bad for me, but he had 2 cards in hand. So I've now made him discard 6 cards in this game, which seems important. So we're going to take 1 here off the City of Brass and drop Thunder Spirit. So now we have, again, 2 flyers, 3 points of damage. Even if he decides to get shifty with the factory and I buff up on the Mazavith, still in a better position. Okay, clearly he's drawn something of substance here because he's actually tapping 4 mana. Oh wait, it's a giant spider. Wouldn't exactly call it something of substance, but it is something. And again, remembering that all of these cards were found, it's not unsurprising that he's got stuff like giant spider in there. So he's also going to play a strip mine and is going to strip my Mazavith. So that's 2 out of 3 games that I've played of this format, and 2 out of 3 times I've played a Mazavith, and 2 out of 2 times I've played the Mazavith, it has been destroyed. Alright, play a basic mountain and separate our colored sources, or try to separate our colored sources without being a dumb. And going to go ahead and cast a Pyrotechnics to kill the giant spider and just get in there for 3, because, I mean, sometimes you have to. Plus, Pyrotechnics is a great magic card. 4 damage divided. Seems good. And I'm playing Acacian Javelineer, so now we can deal a damage on demand or continue attacking with a 1/1. The interesting thing here is it appears that he didn't draw any lands with the Wheel of Fortune, which is pretty great. He's been stuck at 5 mana for a couple of turns now, and that sort of has allowed me to wrest some control back into this, because it's somewhat unlikely, I think, that he wouldn't draw any land, but he played 1 Plains since then. Okay, now we got a City of Brass. So he's at 6 mana, which is not nothing. Taking the damage off the city is kind of rough, but I've also taken some damage. So, alright, we're going to go ahead and clone. I believe he cloned my Scimitar, but I can't actually remember at this point, as it has been a few weeks since I played this game. And it doesn't matter because I have a Lightning Bolt for his face. Another land into play. And yep, going to destroy his cloned Scimitar and gain myself 4 life. And attack in for 5. Gonna animate and block my Acacian Javelineer, which will die. And then post-combat, after the damage having been done, going to play a Triskelion, going to use one of the counters on the Trike to try to kill the factory, going to use a second counter on the Trike to actually kill the factory. So it got 3 damage this turn just through a variety of different sources, and I am having a hard time finding the proper pips on that die. So now I've taken out one of his mana sources, which is nice, and I've also taken out a blocker, and I have a 2/2, a 2/2 in the air, and a 1/5 in the air. So I'm coming across for 5 again this turn, and he does have a forest, so he's back up to 6 mana. But we're going to go ahead, come across for 5. And he's going to go ahead and scoop him up. All right, so at this point we are 2-1 and on to game 4. The fourth game, and opponent leading off on a Savannah. We've both mulliganed but kept our second 7s, and we have a basic Plains. Okay, this was another opponent. I had no idea what he was playing. Honestly, in fact, the only opponent who was playing something that I knew was the last game. So, all right, and then we have an Order of Lightbearer on my side. Plains, Order of Lightbearer is kind of exactly the way we want to start off games. Storage land, really important on the other side if these games can run long. Having the storage land to dump a bunch of mana into a Fireball or a Disintegrate or something like that is pretty important, so not surprised to see the storage land. And then we're going to get our first card played, and we are going to link the Spirit of my Order of Lightbearer, which is going to give functionally give it lifelink for my opponent, so negating any damage that it does. Basic Mountain into my favorite turn 3 play in the deck, Feral Zealot. Seen it 3 games in a row now. And continue to let that storage land tick up. And Basic Mountain along with the Plateau and Savannah. And going to chain my Feral Zealot, which seems good. Especially because he has nothing to block with, so able to do that. So now we've got Basic Mountain again, so we've got 2 and 2 out of me, and a Northern Paladin ready to destroy all the black permanents that I'm certain he doesn't have, but also just be a solid 3/3. Card I don't think I would ever play in sort of what you might call regular old school, but really enjoying in this format because it is a 3/3 for 4, and that's kind of the stat line that I want. Basic Forest comes down the other side, and he passes it back. At this point, I'm starting to get a little greedy in my head and starting to think that I really might have something going on here, so going to attack for 3 and miss my land drop, but cast another 4-drop in a Juggernaut. Okay, and he's tanking for quite some time before just playing a basic. And then tapping 4 mana. Yep, seems like he's going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And we are getting into Legends. Because it is the grand appearance of a legend I cannot remember the name of off the top of my head, but it's the one that makes Hazazon Tamar, the one that makes sand tokens. And here's where I make what you might consider the boneheadiest of bonehead plays, and the play that I didn't know because I wasn't familiar with the card, and I did not think to ask. So I'm jamming in, ease blocking with Hazazon, and then I'm going to deal 1 damage to Hazazon to destroy it. And here's where the problem comes in, is that the tokens get made during the next upkeep, and they get exiled when he leaves the battlefield. So they get made whether or not he's on the battlefield, which I did not know, and they would have left the battlefield with him. So if I had just let him stay alive and managed to deal with him just after the fact, it would have taken all of the sand tokens with him. Instead, I have to deal with the fact that there are 6 sand tokens, because that's how many lands he has. So definitely a misplay on my part, owing to unfamiliarity with the card. Can't know all of the cards in Legends. That set just keeps seeming to release new spoilers every day, so big misplay, hoping it doesn't cost me here. I've also played a Benelish hero on my side of the battlefield, which I missed explaining. Because I was so caught up in my bonehead play about the Hazazon. Not that I would have been able to kill it with the board that I had, but could have just let the two bounce off of each other and dealt with it that way. And then we've got a gauntlet. So now my mountains tap for more, his mountains tap for more, his sand warriors are bigger. I, like a dumb here, forget that gauntlet is a symmetrical effect, and so I actually end up over tapping into this. So I have a red floating here, which I did not realize at the time. He was kind enough to correct my mistake there, which was much appreciated. And I'm up at 24, we'll see here, and 6 1/1s to my 3/3, 5/3, and 1/1 with banding that will attack. Obviously, I'm not attacking with the 2/1 that's going to gain him life. So now I've got 3 mana tapped because I had the 1 red floating from before, red and white, and we're going to play Dragon Engine. Dragon Engine, weirdly solid in this format. 1 3 for 3 with a pump ability. I've been quite happy with in this format. Juggernaut knows nothing but fighting, so we will attack with the Juggernaut, and enough Sand Warriors to kill the Juggernaut are going to block it. So we've dealt with half of the Sand Warriors now. Still would not have been in a position to deal with the Sand Warriors unless, obviously, he had played the Gauntlet, which he probably would have played. So we can't speculate on what might have happened had things gone differently, but perhaps there wouldn't be any Sand Warriors on the table and I would still have a Juggernaut here. Okay, and I'm going to lose a white source to strip. Opponent correctly identifying that white is my main color and red is my splash color. And he's going to pass the turn. I'm going to draw probably not a land. And go into the tank myself at this point. So we shall see. In retrospect, it seems like just attacking is pretty clean here. He does have a lot of mana up, but I've got the creature advantage on his pile of 1/1s to my 3/3, 1/3, and 1/1 with banding. So deep in the tank here, and just electing to apparently do nothing. So we shall see how this goes. I mean, spoiler alert, I know how this goes, but we shall see how it goes. Alright, back into it, and gonna go ahead and attack with the big thing, the thing I can pump, and a band of things that will allow him to still gain some life, but it's gonna poke an amount of damage through. We're going to give first strike into the band. Banding, if you're not familiar with it, I'm not even going to bother trying to explain because I'm still not entirely certain I get it correct. But I would check the Oracle text of any card with banding. Benelish Hero is an easy one for me. Going to pump the Dragon Engine. Nope, not going to pump the Dragon Engine. Going to cast Chaos Confetti, which I swear is a real Chaos Orb. I have a real Chaos Orb, well, a Collector's Edition Chaos Orb, but I left it in my main old school deck and am currently in the process of fishing it out on camera from that deck to put into play here where this Chaos Confetti is. There it is. Look, a real Chaos Orb. So to all those of you who've been waiting to see a Chaos Orb get flipped, here it comes. And now is the time in which I should be passing the turn. I passed the turn, and he has passed it back to me on playing nothing. Okay, there we go. That's on me. Sorry. That's on me now, not me then. So, going to go ahead and take the orb, using the fake orb as my target. Going to lift up the orb to probably higher than a foot, because I'm bad at judging that, but... And we're going to go ahead and take his pseudo lifelink away so I can poke in for more damage. And we are going to turn Urtang sideways, which is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as it stands right now. And we're going to pump and... nope, not going to pump, going to play a Thunder Spirit. So, lethal on board. Oh no, Discord. Whoops. Discord pop up there. Sorry about that, everybody. That did happen in-game. So, also sorry to Dave that Discord popped up while we were playing. Going to go ahead and play Palladium Wars. Big stonking dragon. Because it seems like his deck is multicolored legends from Legends, which is fantastic, and something I'm definitely into. I actually have a Palladium Wars myself. If I ever build an old school Brawl deck, it will definitely be a Palladium Wars, because I got it signed at one of the first Philly old school meetups that I went to. So that'll be my Brawl general if I ever deign to build Brawl. So we're going to untap, draw a card. We have lethal on the battlefield, because our opponent is at, I believe, 7 at this point. Still no black creature to destroy with that Northern Paladin, but we'll go ahead and attack with everything spreading out the damage, so all he can block is one of these things. The 3/3 being the largest thing, but we also have the ability to pump here. Currently attacking with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And if he blocks the 3/3, still going to take 6. And they're going to pump that, which will be the game. Because counting is fundamental, and that will be enough to send it home. All right, so at this point we are 3-1 in this 5-round event. One more game left to play, and then it will be, hopefully, if we can win it, spoilers, I do, off to the best of 3 finals. On to Game 5. Okay, Game 5, the ultimate game for the event, going to lead on Basic Plains into Tundra Wolves, getting it started with a real aggro start right out the gate, a 1/1 for 1. And opponent plays a Winter Factory, the best factory, in my opinion at least. I don't own any, but it is the best one. Basic Mountain into Mesa Pegasus, and we're going to attack for 1. Alright, so we've got a 1-2 start, and opponent has a colorless land. That feels pretty solid. Okay, and a Pendelhaven. So it looks like opponent might be on a weenie strategy as well. Gonna strip the Pendelhaven, and he's going to activate the factory, and I happen to have the Lightning Bolt in my hand, so stripped out 2 lands, attack for 3. Oof, I believe, is the correct phrase there. Sorry. Benlish Hero coming down. So now we've gone 1, 2, 3, basically. All right, and he has a basic forest. Okay, basic mountain, going to attack for 4. Got the Chaos Orb again. There it is, the Chaos Orb again, and we're going to orb, or attempt to orb, the forest. Yep, we hit. So that's 3 lands that have been destroyed now on the opponent's side of the battlefield. And pass it the turn. Let's see, does he have a 4th land? He does have a 4th land, basic forest again, but once again, I mean, the tempo advantage that we're showing at this point, going to attack in for another 4. Pass the turn. Okay, basic mountain. So even with having destroyed 3 of his lands, he still has 2 mana. I'm going to play a City of Brass. Attack for 4 again. And then play a Juggernaut. Taking 1 damage off of my City of Brass. And he draws and scoops him up. Yep. Turns out that destroying your opponent's first 3 land drops, even when they have 2 more land drops after that, is still pretty effective. So at this point, we are 4-1, and I'm relatively certain I'm going off to the best of 3 finals. I can't obviously make any guarantees as to that at this point, because I need to see how the rest of the bracket shakes out, but I'm relatively certain that 4-1 is going to be good enough to get me there. And again, spoilers, it was, so there is one more best of 3 set of games coming up right after this. Alright folks, here it is for all the marbles, the best of 3 finals. So I'm going to lead on a Basic Plains and an Acacian Javelineer. Pretty good start again, if I do say so myself. And Nate is going to lead on a basic island. Nate, known around these parts for playing mono blue, so that basic island is not all that surprising. Plains, attack for 1, and play a Mesa Pegasus. Alright, 1-drop and a 2-drop. We saw that was really effective in the last game, so hopefully it'll be able to get me through at least this first part of the match. And he's going to play a Chaos Orb. Woohoo! Oh boy. Chaos Orb on the other side. That's kind of exciting. Alright, going to play a Hammerheim and attack for 3. Or 2, sorry. Pegasus is a 1-1 with banding. I don't know why. In the last game I kept saying it was 2 damage. It wasn't. Okay, basic island again. Wait. Yes. Okay, so going to tap 2 and going to cast Copy Artifact. The only artifact in play is the Chaos Orb. So I'm going to copy the Chaos Orb. And looks like we're flipping an orb. Okay, lands square on and I lose my flyer. Alright. So that's 1 orb flip done this game. Will we see any others? Alright, attacking for 1 again. Managed to deal 4 damage to him so far, so that's not too bad. Play a Tundra Wolves. The Weenie Onslaught continues. Shocking, another basic island. Control Magic, which was actually kind of shocking, for me at least. So, gonna go ahead and STP my own Javelineer so that his Control Magic has no target, and I'm gonna gain a little point of life there, which is not negligible, I suppose. Okay, gonna attack for 1. And play another 1-drop in Benelish Hero. Definitely the weenie side of the deck coming out to play this game, so that's absolutely what we're looking for. The 1-drops, the 1-drops, the 1-drops, and the 1-drops. Okay, it looks like he's tanking a little bit now. I am actually putting on a weird amount of pressure, not a weird amount of pressure, but a lot of pressure. I have played 4 creatures so far and have managed to deal damage with all but 1 of them. At this point, we've dealt 5 already. Alright, basic island coming down. And he is really in the tank here, questioning how many cards I have left in hand, which is 2. So what are we going to get? We are going to get Skull of Orm. Skull of Orm to get back that control magic. That's really frustrating, for me at least. Not the kind of thing I want him to be able to do. Alright, he's going to pass it up. And I'm going to go ahead and attack in for 2. Just keep popping when I can pop. And got my own Chaos Orb. So it's all orbs all the time here. Flipping out the wrong card from my regular old school deck there. Whoops. Thought I knew where the orb was. Turns out I hadn't known where the orb was at this point. But he's going to trust that I have it. And that's a real Chaos Orb, I says. So we're going to aim for the Skull of Orm here. Going to use the Benelish Hero as a target. And here is the point at which Nate is the coolest bro in all of old school. Because I definitely boffed that flip, and he agreed to do the Gentleman's Orb anyway, so that was very nice of him. Very, very, very pro and nice of him. The kind of thing you'd expect from a cool dude. Okay, now he's got his 6th basic island. The man loves his basic islands. And Stasis hits the battlefield. So my stonking exactly 1 untapped land is the only source of mana that I have. Wait, now there's a Plains and passing it right back up again. So we're going to go into draw go mode here for a little while since Stasis is going to keep us from untapping. Him drawing lands is actively bad for me here because it keeps us under the Stasis lock longer. And I'm clearly not drawing lands, which is bad for a different reason. Because in here he goes, keeping to draw lands. And I'm still not drawing lands, and he's still drawing lands. So his land count is building up big. Alright, I've got a mountain here now. Got 3 mana. Not much to do with it. But I've got it at least. And he still has yet more lands. This stasising is going on and on and on. It's letting my hand refill, which is nice because my hand was pretty low at the beginning of this, but I don't necessarily know. He's also drawing cards. I don't know how many of them were lands he already had in hand versus lands he's drawn off the top, but it's still giving us both turns to draw cards, which is frustrating. Looks like he missed his land drop that turn finally. Not going to pay for the stasis. All right. And he had a land drop. So 4 mana on Nate's side to 3 mana on mine, but I am about to untap to 6. And my creatures finally get to untap. Okay, pop in for 2. Send him down to 11. And counting up mana, moving stuff around. Gonna go for White Knight, which is going to get mana drained pretty much immediately. And then 4 mana, plays a Dancing Scimitar. Don't know if I should have sequenced that differently and played the Scimitar first, because I think the White Knight is better overall, but at least it's the flyer, so... And there's his 2 mana drain mana. So he's got plenty of mana to do pretty much whatever he wants here at this point. In fact, almost exactly whatever he wants. He's going to transmute artifact. At this point, I'm definitely shaking because with all this mana, he can pay to transmute out any artifact he wants. And if he feels like cashing in his Chaos Orb for another artifact is more important than cashing in his Chaos Orb for one of my cards, that means he's not overly threatened by my cards. All right, here comes the Trike. And he's going to shoot down my 2/1 toughness creatures. That's really frustrating, but hey, what can you do? At least I have the 1/5 flyer to his 2/2, and I'm definitely ahead on life. You know, we both have a pile of mana at this point, so that's not going to be a problem. So I'm just going to keep going ahead and pressing the attack, because that's what the deck is built to do. The deck is built to turn creatures sideways, so let's do that. All right, and we're going to play a Moorish Cavalry, so now we have a 3/3 with Trample, notably something that can very easily block his 2/2 Trike, and can also get blocked by the Trike and still trample over. So I think it's funny I said I had a pile of mana. I have 6 mana, but in a weenie deck, 6 mana is actually a pile. So as opposed to the actual pile of mana that Nate has, in that he has 11. But he was also dropping a lot more lands while we were under stasis than I was, so we'll see what happens there. He's got all that mana. I mean, that's probably almost half of the lands in his entire library, or in his entire deck at this point, that are out on the battlefield, so there's not a ton left in his library. So in theory, he should be drawing a lot higher percentage of gas than I am. We'll see if his gas is good, because he was also 4-1 coming into this. Both of us were 4-1 coming into these finals. So obviously his deck has to have something good, because you don't get to 4-1 with trash in your deck. All right, Nev's Disc is hitting the battlefield. That is that's a lot to deal with for me, because I want these 4 points of damage. I'm 3 turns out from getting him at this point. So I'm going to attack. And remembering again that the Moorish Cavalry does have trample, so if he blocks with the Trike, it's still coming through. Alright, he's just going to let the Trike sit there. I've got all 6 of my mana and a Fireball for 6, which was exactly what I needed to close out the game if he does not have a counterspell. Or Fireball for 5. I am a dumb. I cannot do math. So he's going to go ahead and ping me for 1. And then he's going to bounce that back to his hand. Seems like a pretty good play, boomeranging that back to your hand after pinging me for 1. Gets to reset with a 4/4 on the battlefield after he Nev's Discs to blow up the world. Alright, so there go my creatures. I'm down to cards in hand and 6 mana, because he now has another reloaded Triskelion, so he's got a 4/4 that can deal 3 to me at instant speed. But I play a Plains, and sit on it apparently for a while to play a Sarah Angel, which was counterspell bait because a 1 point disintegrate. Yep, the last card in his hand was not a counterspell, so we're going to game two. Yeah, that was a lot. I feel like the stasis was probably more helpful to me, or at least more harmful to him than it was to me, because he was bricking on land during a bunch of it. I feel like there was definitely a way that he probably could have kept it going for another couple of turns and maybe drawn himself out. He had he had 4 untapped blue mana when he let the stasis go away. So maybe he keeps me under stasis for another couple of turns, because it's not like I'm untapping anything, right? So I have not a ton of outs there, and maybe he gets the outs there, but I guess he had the transmute artifact and he wanted to go get that trike and start mowing down my little dudes. Like, there is definitely value in that. I still don't know. I feel like I probably would have played that stasis differently, but I've also never actually played stasis, so I'm going to default to someone who has played stasis a fair piece more than I have, and assume that he was correct in letting that stasis go when he let that stasis go, and hopefully we'll go on. Be back in a second with game two. All right, and game two, Nate starting off directly with a flood, probably hoping to continue to keep stuff tapped down for me, explaining it to me there because it's been a while since I've seen flood and could not remember what it did. Easy to keep my stuff tapped down for 2 mana. All right, we're leading on Plateau and Tundra Wolves. So here's something that he could tap down. Flood, if you're not familiar, for blue and blue, you can tap down any creature without flying. So that's the kind of thing he wants to be doing, slowing me down, controlling the game. Obviously, it chews up a ton of his mana to do it. If I can go wide here, Flood isn't exactly helpful because he'd rather be using all that mana to do other things, but it is at least an option that he has that can slow me down at the expense of developing his own board. So we'll see what happens. Go ahead and attack. Did I keep the greedy? Oh yeah, we're going to tap, going to my declare attack step. Did I keep the greedy one-lander? No, I did not. I'm going to go ahead and play a White Knight. Alright, so now, from my end, I'm looking at keeping pressure on, going wide, like I said, hoping that he doesn't have the additional mana to both develop and tap my things with Flood. Going wide is really an easy way to overwhelm. Alright, so he's going to play a 3-drop, and, yep, I honestly do not remember what that card is, so I apologize in advance to everybody for completely not understanding what card that is. But I'm sure it's important. It's a land enchantment. I remember. It's the thing where I have to pay life or sacrifice my land. I wish I could remember the name of it. But I'm going to instead attack him for 3 and play a Dragon Engine, again continuing to go wide. And I'll take... in my head, I'm taking damage off this land every turn. I don't care, because I would rather have access to white and red mana, especially now that I only have the 1 plane still. I'd rather have access to white and red mana than I would the life total being what it is. I know that based on the first game, pardon me, I know that based on the first game, I am able to overrun him, and that I will be able to deal more damage to him than he can deal to me. So he is taking his time here, and I understand that because, again, I have a lot of potential damage on the battlefield, and he's obviously missing land drops, so he needs to worry about having the mana up for Flood. All right, we've got an Orb. Orb is in play. I'm going to lose another life on my upkeep. And probably going to go straight to attacks here, because we're attacking for 4 without a pump. It's a pretty solid amount of his life total. He's going to Orb flip, and he's going to flip, destroying my White Knight, so now it's only 2, but it's still 2 damage, so we've still dealt 5, we're a quarter of the way done. And we're going to go into my favorite, Pharrell Zealot. I swear that card has shown up in every game, or almost every game that I played in this event. And I'd continue to play it, because it's great, and I love it. Like I said in the deck tech, that card is really growing on me. And look, I realize it is not all that impressive, but in the context of a Singleton format, I will take that card whenever I can get it. So, alright, he's up to 4 mana. Gonna cast a Copy Artifact, and he has himself a Dragon Engine. So, That's not something I'm overly concerned about. I'm glad it was only a 1/3 that he got to copy there and not something more impactful. But hey, also that enchantment is doing me damage. I mean, it's been 3 turns that it's been out, and it's been 3 turns I have not sacrificed that plateau because I absolutely do not want to lose that here. So, going to go ahead and Spirit Link my Pharrell Zealot, as it is the consistently largest thing on the battlefield, and go ahead and attack for 2, and there we go. So nothing happens, because it gets tapped down. So I wanted to give him that to tap it down because I can get the Dragon Engine to be bigger if this goes longer, and so I wanted him to have to make the choice between me gaining life and him taking damage there with the potential to pump with the Dragon Engine. So going to go ahead and deploy Acacian Javelineers here and move into the Declare Attack step once more, and going to get my going to get all of my cards tapped down. That's just how we're feeling. Okay. Just tap-a-roo. I wish I had the ability to attack through here and actually do something with it, because that's not like the 1/3 matches up so well against my Tundra Wolves and my Acacian Javelineers that his ability to tap down 2 of my things is just really annoying. And it's slowing me down and allowing him to draw out of this mana screw, which we're both mana screwed, but hey, I feel like in the long run, again, like I've said, I have the benefit here of having the faster deck, and so giving him the time to draw out of it is not great, especially not while I'm also losing a life every turn and my Pharrell Zealot is going to stay tapped down. So going to go ahead and remove the attempt to remove the copy artifact, which will get Boomerang back to his hand, and so I won't gain any life there. He's really stepping on my ability to gain life here. I'm going to move to the Declare Attack step and get my Acacian Javelineer tapped down because I can't pump the Dragon Engine. Going to be able to attack in for 2 there. So even with everything that he's doing, I still am at a higher life total than he is, and yet he's draining me 1 every turn. So the fact that he's tapped down my Pharrell Zealot repeatedly, he's tapped down other cards repeatedly now, and he's just doing a lot. We're both actually doing a lot with only 4 and 3 mana respectively, and it's just that a lot that I'm doing is actually dealing him damage, and the a lot that he's doing is just slowing down my ability to deal damage, which is not nothing. I'm going to go ahead and take another damage as he's got a clone there. And again, it's just slow. I really wish I could see more mana, because obviously I've got so many cards in my hand at this point. Going to go ahead and attack through again. See what he decides to do there. Just going to take it, correctly reading that I have stuff in my hand, and then we're going to play a Mesa Pegasus. So now I've got a flyer. That's something he's got to worry about, because now I can get in there and start flying over. Again, it's only for 1, but he's at 11, so that's not nothing. He's finally drawn another land. It's the first of us to break the land stall. So he can now do a 1 mana thing and tap down 2 of my creatures with the Flood. He also notably cannot tap down the Pegasus with the Flood, which is pretty solid from my side. So the copy artifact is back. Still the only artifact in play is the Dragon Engine, so the copy artifact becomes a Dragon Engine. And I'm looking right now at just my Pharrell Zealot gets to untap. I've got an 11-turn clock. Oh, that looks pretty solid. I'm going to block with my Acacian Javelineers, and I'm going to send that in there to close that out. Deal 2 damage. And see what he's going to do from here. He's going to pass with 3 mana up. My Pharrell Zealot finally gets to untap. I'm going to go to 13. Remembering to put that reminder back on top of my library, because I'm the kind of person that will absolutely forget a persistent effect. And just going to send in the Sky team. Well, the Sky team and the other bigger team. So, play the Northern Paladin because we finally found the 4th land. Now we have a 3/3 on the battlefield. Now we have something big. I completely boffed on gaining life there. That's something I'm now noticing, and something that I wish I had done. But hey, you win some, you lose some. That is a play mistake I am constantly making. Alright, so I'm going to take another damage. He's passing with 6 mana up. That concerns me a little bit because he can now tap down all 3 of my things that are of any consequence and leave my little piddly 1/1, and obviously my flyer, which he can't tap down, but he can tap down all 3 of the creatures on the ground that are of consequence, and I, once again, am just getting slowed down. He's not developing, but I'm just getting bogged down. Looking at a 10-turn clock here and just taking my time. Tapping, tapping, tapping. Leaving the things that can attack. And just going to attack with the thing in the air that he can't block. I've got a 10-turn clock. He's got to answer it eventually. All right, and there's an Acacian Priest that can start pumping. That cuts our clock effectively in half. If he's going to slow me down and get it to the point where if all I can do is attack with the Mace of Pegasus, I can now do it in 5 turns instead of 9. It eats up all my mana that I'm stuck on, but I also am playing enough land in this deck that I think I should be drawing one at some point. Meanwhile, Nate continues to draw himself out of the land screw and right into a stasis. I'm not, I'll be honest, overly concerned about stasis here. Yes, I am still taking 1 a turn off of keeping my plateau, which I'm definitely not getting rid of given how few lands I've seen. But I feel like, once again, stasis benefits me a lot more than it benefits him. And it's the kind of thing where, all right, now I've got time. Because his lands are going to start tapping down, and there's going to come a point where I can draw things, and now that we're really slowed down, and it's slowed down for both of us and not just him flooding me every turn, I feel like I've got a couple turns to draw some cards, and when that stasis eventually goes away, assuming that it is not 10 turns from now, I will be absolutely all right. Now, that lock is pretty good, and eventually I would probably consider getting rid of that plateau so that I'm not taking damage from the enchantment every turn, but until the point at which my life total gets really low, I'm just not going to concern myself with that because I have a bunch of creatures in play and am in a pretty good position when the stasis eventually has to go away. Now, I've said in the last game that Nate is a much more accomplished stasis player than I am, and so I'm going to, in as much as I've never played it, I'm going to defer to his intelligence as to when the stasis goes away. But if it's me not knowing what's in his hand and seeing the lands that he has out, I'm probably going to try to keep the stasis around for as long as possible, because on the other side, the weenie aggro deck is just building a force, or has built a force, and is drawing cards. So, all right, we've got a Candelabra there. So if he can find a way to generate mana that isn't with his lands, he can untap additional lands, which seems pretty decent under the stasis. Anything to untap your mana sources under the stasis seems pretty good. I finally see a 5th land here, so that's pretty solid. Really having mana troubles this game, and you wouldn't know it by looking at the battlefield, but then you remember that one of those things costs 4, everything else costs 3 or less. Sorry, one of those things costs 4, one of them costs 3, 2 of them cost 3. So it's really a weenie-filled board. It just so happens that my opponent with the stasis is... Formerly with the stasis, because he did finally let it go, but my opponent with the stasis was just having a hard time there, and I was developing my little wieners. So, gonna bolt him at end of turn. Putting him down to 6. Gonna untap everything. Take my damage once again. And we're pretty well got him here. He's got 3 mana up, so he can tap 1 non-flying creature down. I can pump something once if I need to with the Acacian Priest, and even if not, so we're going to tap down the Zealot again. That makes a lot of sense, and we're going to pile in with everything here. Pile in with a 1-1, a 1-1 with flying and banding, a 1-1 with first strike, a 3-3, and a 1-3 with a pump ability. I guess the 1-1, the first 1-1 also has a pump ability as well, and notably it can pump anything. So, piling in for an absolute load of damage there, and again, from the position, I don't think he can come back from this. My creature advantage is overwhelming, and the tempo of stasis and the flood and everything else really ended up working in my favor because he was spending more resources to stop me from doing stuff than I was spending to actually do stuff. And that's not good. So, and then we also have Pyrotechnics, so pretty much no matter what happens, we finish it off. Yeah, he had a Winter Orb, a Transmute, and he did have a Brain Geyser there, which would have been nice, but it's still, I think, again, the fact that he was spending more to stop me from doing the stuff that I was doing than I was spending to do it. And that was the Singleton event. Really dig the deck. I think that Weenie is an absolute thing that you can do successfully in this format, which was also shown by, I believe it was the most recent of the 7-point Singleton events that was held through Facebook, which was won by Dave Firth Bard on a white Weenie deck. So I think Weenie is definitely playable in this format. I think we saw some really neat cards, some interesting plays. I've definitely made some play mistakes and could use to tighten up, but hey, it's old school, so none of us actually know what anything does, none of us actually know what the rules are, and we're not all that tight or serious about it anyway. If you like what you're seeing here on these videos, please make sure you check out superliminalfilms.com. And if you like old school and you're interested about it, you can check out, there's a Reddit, Old School MTG. You can also, I'll leave the link to the Philadelphia Old School Discord down below here. And you can reach out to me. You can reach out pretty much anywhere. We're pretty open as an old school community for new people. So if you saw this, thought it looked pretty neat, there's also, like I said, a Facebook group for 7-Point Singleton. And other than that, make sure you find us, like I said, anywhere Superliminal Films can be found. Facebook, YouTube, that's this, Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram. And until the next time I see you, please make sure to do all the little stuff down below here, the likes, the comments, the subscribing, all that YouTube stuff that lets them know that you think we're cool. Engagement is important. And until the next time, bye, everybody.